What up, y'all? And welcome back to another episode of the What's Up Brodey podcast. This episode, we had Josh Fotis on. He's the director of operations for an organization called Project Liberty USA. It's a counter-human trafficking advocacy organization where they're not a 501 nonprofit. Right now, they're kind of in the newer phase. They're about 2 years in. So really just kind of building awareness, writing articles, doing op-eds. But Josh's overall goal is to be able to do search and rescue missions down the line. So it was super cool to sit down with him and, hear about how he got into all of this and about it. He worked with Congress and worked in Congress and things of that nature. And so it was a very interesting conversation, lots of different insights there and different perspective. Yeah, it was just really cool. He's chose a very difficult life, running a nonprofit, and especially one regarding such a tough and hard topic to be around, to cover. He's got to write about it. He has to hear about it. So he's definitely chose a very honorable way to, pursue a career. So definitely, it was really awesome having him on. Glad we could help spread that message. And hope y'all enjoy the episode. As always, we have shirts. Shirts are for sale. You can get shirts. They're $25. Let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram or drop a comment below and I'd get you a shirt. I can either ship it, you can come pick it up, I can drop it off, whatever's easier for you. And as always, Redmond's, the link is in the YouTube description as well. You can get 15% off your order by either using code Brodey or following the link. It'll take you directly to the website and the code will be then used automatically or applied automatically for you. Awesome, y'all. Enjoy the episode and see you next week.
Whew. Okay, I'm ready. All right. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Josh! What's up, dude?
How's it going, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. Outside of being slightly sick, but, it is what it is, and the show goes on. How you feeling?
I'm all right. Not too bad,
We were talking about being in and out of the hospital.
A little bit here and there.
Dude, stomach issues suck.
Yeah, not fun.
No.
I've been plagued by the Gordon Ryan disease of jiu-jitsu, and now I'm
you started doing jiu-jitsu and now your stomach's trash.
Yeah. I know, it's funny too, because do you know Jesse? He trains at Round Rock.
Tiffany Round Rock?
Yeah. He always used to make the joke when I first started training at Round Rock. He's like, because I was fighting at 205 for I don't even know how long. And, I was just kind of hulking around there for a bit, and he'd be like, oh, it's baby Gordon. And now I'm like, no, please don't, please. I can't do the stomach stuff. Like, I'll take all the pride, but none of the stomach issues.
Were you on any antibiotics or like?
I took one round of antibiotics because I got a staph infection on my leg. Probably like 2 months ago. And
those are awfully close to each other.
I know, but they said it was not related. They told me that they took blood, they did CTs, all that, and they were like, dude, you're healthy as an ox. Like, my resting heart rate's like 56, blood pressure's 116 over 72. Like, couldn't be any better. There's no elevated blood markers, no elevated white blood cell count, nothing like that. So it's got to be just all in the gut. I'm not sure, but
sucks, man. Well, hopefully you get some answers. Going through the good old VA.
Oh yeah.
Good old VA.
We'll see how much care they do. But I'm hoping that at least something will come of it, and they'll maybe profusely apologize for being so horrible at their jobs. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, Josh, we'll see you in November. Okay.
In November, when the next available appointment is.
I know you're dying now. I know your arm's about to fall off, but our next available appointment is November. Does that work? Dude, you're the first person to bring notes or a laptop.
Yeah, there's a lot of information. I don't want to get anything wrong. And, I'm not claiming to be an expert in any category, but I know at least a little bit about a lot, but I don't want to tell people the wrong information like a lot of other people end up doing.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I brought my own notes. I've been working on them for a little bit just to make sure that I didn't come on here and make an ass of myself.
That's cool. Let's hop into it. What do you got? So you run a organization called Project Liberty.
Yeah, Project Liberty USA.
And tell us about it.
Okay, so Project Liberty USA is counter human trafficking advocacy organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that my father, he's been running nonprofits. They started their first one back in 2015, and then when I was in college, I was working for Congress for a little bit, and came straight out of the military and decided that this was an interest of mine, going through my degree plan and stuff, and thinking that maybe there was an opportunity to do something that I thought was worth my moral instigations. And so he kind of helped me start Project Liberty, and then I've taken it over since took it over, my last semester of college, and now I've been doing it for a year. So we've been in operation for about 2 years full time now.
Oh yeah, so it's been 2 years. You said that. Fuck, dude. You said? There was something right there I was gonna double down on. Nonetheless, it'll come back to me here in a second. But so you've been running it now. Your dad helped you. So how? What got you into all this?
Obviously, going into the military, I kind of had a knack for this niche area of working where, it requires a lot of grit and, unfortunately, a lot of violence to kind of make you realize that, there's certain jobs in the world that require men to do things that they may find unsavory or things that might bother them, but without them, there's nothing standing against evil. So I decided that it was best. I was going to go to an agency for a long time. That was the plan, was to go to an agency and do counter human trafficking. That was it. But in light of how things have been, back in December of 2024, there was actually a earmark on a bill that was passed that said that the U.S. could outsource private organizations for government contracts. And there's a part of, I think it's the First Amendment, it's called Letters of Marque, which basically allows for state-funded piracy. And that would basically be what we fall under, because the goal, right now for Project Liberty, because funding is so low, we try and do a lot of advocacy, a lot of, I write a lot of op-eds, highlight different aspects of human trafficking, things like that. But the goal is to run a full-time search and rescue team that I myself will be in charge of. And, I think that my background in the military does qualify me for that at least a little bit. I spent 4 years in the infantry. I was a team leader. I don't have very much combat experience, but, trained for it like I was going to the Super Bowl. Why would you not? If you are in the business of actively hunting armed men, why would you not practice every day like it's going to be the best game of your life?
Yeah.
So, I still kind of follow that, and I've been following that for a long time. And obviously, we met training jiu-jitsu. I try and be a very, very well-rounded individual when it comes to that, because when the rubber meets the road, right? I don't want to be the one staring down the barrel of a gun that is going to stop me from doing the things that I've set out to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What were you doing with Congress? You said that you had a brief stint.
So I interned in Congress in college. That was my first experience. I did a 6 month internship out of a congressman's office from Florida. Did very well in that position, and he then asked me to be his campaign manager for his reelection in 2024. So went to Florida, ran his campaign, and then ended up winning by about 84.4%, which was a 4.4% increase from his previous elections. And obviously, I'm not going to take too much credit on that end, because he was a very well-established congressman. He's been in Congress since 2006.
Who's the congressman?
His name's Gus Bilirakis. Yes. He's a very nice man from Florida. I don't have anything to say about that. They treated me well, and they gave me an opportunity to kind of, get more into the political space. And then, so did that, ran that campaign, won that, came home, guy in college with that under his belt, and I kind of just rode that through the rest of college. And like I said, the plan was to go to an agency for a long time, but honestly, I don't feel like agencies are doing what they need to be doing at this point in time. And with the information that we've seen coming from the interiors of our government, it's concerning.
Yeah, you don't think Kash Patel should be partying with the hockey players?
No, I don't.
Getting Epstein files.
I don't approve of any of that. You know, if you're a man
flying
who
his girlfriend on the jet, on the FBI jet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if you're a man who chooses that life and like this is what you decide to do, like your duty is to justice. Right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of that life chooses them. They get put there for a reason because they are a puppet and they're able to be controlled.
Yeah,
that's how they get that job.
We see a lot of that, you know. I mean, all the stuff with Mamdani in New York and his affiliations with Epstein and his parents' affiliations and things like that. It's like, you know, it's
coincidence.
Yeah, totally, right? Totally coincidence.
Yeah.
But it's scary because, like, you know, I'm sitting here, you know, I'm little old me, like I don't have very much pull on anything, and I've just seen very brief echelons of government in the federal and the private sector. And from there, it's like, you know, you get to see aspects of laziness that you didn't think existed. You get to see aspects of, I wouldn't say like defiance of the Constitution, but I would definitely say like ignoring it, right?
Oh,
like
sure.
just kind of not addressing the elephants in the room at the time. I mean, for God's sakes, like all the stuff in the Epstein files came out and like, you know, none of the committees are talking about it, right? Ways and Means, arguably the most powerful committee in all of Congress. And they don't, you know, they have questions come up about it all the time and none of them want to talk about it. Even the supporters of like releasing the Epstein files, they bring up nothing. And they're sitting on this podium and they're interviewing these people that, you know, have shit to do with stuff that none of us care about, right? And it's like we're being treated like we're stupid.
Well, we're cattle, goyim,
Goy.
you know, like
the Gentiles.
Yeah, we're just less than. We're just sucking up resources, you know. They want to charge us for air. Have you seen this lady?
No, I haven't.
This lady was on the World Economic Forum, and I think this one was actually the World Economic Forum. I posted a clip. I said it was the World Economic Forum. It was the World Science Festival. My bad, y'all.
There's so many. They got you, though.
Yeah,
they got you.
They got
you lying asshole.
I know, right? I had some dude on that post. I had some dude comment like, I feel so misled. This is worse than CNN, da 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 da. And I just responded back. I was like, I'm so sorry that I mislabeled the conference that this guy was at. Like, I'll do better next time. Even though what he said was still what he said. But it wasn't at that conference. My bad, dude. But yeah, it was the World Science Festival. But I'm pretty sure this lady was at the World Economic Forum because I've been told now in all of the thousands of comments on that video that the World Economic Forum background is blue. And I'm pretty sure this one was blue. But this lady is talking about how there's so many resources in the world that they don't charge for, that they should charge for. And air is one of them. And I was like, who are you?
Yeah, what a ridiculous thing to say.
Air. Charge for air. And so it's just mind-boggling, dude. These globalists, these Bill Gates folks.
I know.
You know, Bill Gates is
bad.
buying up all this monocropping agriculture farmland. He owns so much farmland, especially in South America.
Yeah.
And he's taking these beautiful beef farms and turning them into these like soy crop farms. Mm-hmm. Growing all this soy or almonds or whatever, and it's like they take up growing soy and all of that takes up so much more space than cattle. Mm-hmm. So much more space. And
produces way more greenhouse emissions, everything.
Takes up way more water.
Yeah.
All of these things. And then you're finding out like all of this shit in the US is made from like soybean oil. Like for instance, Texas Roadhouse just got busted recently. That the butter that they serve with their rolls is 100% soybean oil.
Yeah, it's I can't believe it's not butter shit, and they just put a bunch of cinnamon and sugar in it.
Pretty much, dude. And then in the disclaimer at the very bottom, in the fine print, it says, in some locations, you can ask for real butter.
In some locations?
In some location, yeah.
Who would have been doing that before anyways? They probably all have it too. It's like at all the locations, they probably have the real butter, but nobody knows that the other shit isn't real butter.
Well, who's sitting there with their family getting some rolls and butter?
Delicious
that they
rolls,
call butter.
Yeah.
Delicious rolls. Next Roadhouse. The rolls are great. Not hating on that, but this shit's some slimy shit. Sitting there with their family and being like, ooh, these rolls are good. Let's dip it in the butter. And they even call it butter. Who would then think, like, maybe I should ask them if I can get real butter? Who would think of that?
Yeah.
Nonetheless, they just like craziness, and this tick shit is freaking me out.
Oh, yeah.
Boxes of ticks just showing up. And the difference between these Lone Star ticks and other ticks that I've been seeing is that they actively hunt their prey. They physically go towards what they want. And it's very interesting watching these ticks just fucking... And they're actually like going after the person or the animal.
Now, is it heat driven?
Maybe. That's a good point. I don't know.
Because
I've just seen videos of them actively hunting what they're trying to bite.
Yeah.
Heat driven would make sense.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, I grew up in Virginia, so dealing with ticks was a really big thing, and we used to get them all the time. But they're just regular like deer ticks, right? Like never this like weird Lone Star thing. But it's funny that all this is coming out because I remember in basic training, there was one guy in particular, and they test you for all kinds of shit when you first join the Army. Like you go through like everybody thinks that basic training is the worst part of the Army. No, the worst part of joining the Army is 30th Adjutant General, especially when you go to the infantry.
What's that?
So 30th AG is basically where all of the recruits go to be separated into different like basic training units, right? So you go there, there's like an amnesty period, you give up like, you know, if you have a gun with you for some reason or drugs or, you know, anything that they would consider contraband. Like they found a bunch of weird shit in there, but it's like just contraband. You have like an amnesty period. Then they shave your head. They give you all the shots. They take your blood. They check your eyes, your teeth, like all of this to make sure that like they're not betting on, you know, they're going to spend however much money, you know, $400,000 on a soldier that is going to end up leaving in, you know, 3 weeks, right? Because he's got some health thing that needs, you know, attention that they missed or whatever it is. But everybody that works at 30th AG basically hates their life because it's miserable and it sucks. And they make it your fault because why wouldn't they, right? You're just nobody. You don't even have a name anymore. So like, why would they not make it your fault? But I mean, my first experience at Fort Benning at the 30th AG is I get off the bus at like 11 p.m. And we go and you stand in this thing called a CTA, right? Which is like basically a big concrete pad with like a shop roof over it, but it's open and it's connected to like a big barracks building, right? And I'm standing there in formation for the first time. I'm sweating my balls off because I'm way too fat to be there. And it's the middle of summer in Georgia. And all of a sudden, I'm standing there and I'm like in a trance, right? And I'm looking and you can't move, like you can't do anything, you can't talk to anybody. And all of a sudden, boom, this fucking crash, huge crash. And this kid falls off the roof of the CTA. He tried to kill himself and he jumped from the top of the barracks building, hit the roof of the CTA and fell off and broke both of his legs. Oh. And I'm standing there going, oh my God, what have I done? Where am I? And the drill sergeant just walks over to him and he looks at him. This kid's like screaming on the ground. His legs are like all contorted and shit. And he just looks at him and he goes, "You can't even kill yourself, right, Private?" It was traumatizing, to say the least. And I've only been there for like an hour and a half at this point, right? And there's people walking around and they've got... You see people wearing like issued like eye pro, like you know, clear sunglasses. And it's because they have double pink eye. And that's what the medics told them to do to not spread it, in formation because they can't skip formation, but they've got double pink eye and upper respiratory infections. It's like the biggest thing. And so then that's when you go and like you get like all the shots and whatnot, and they make sure that everybody's like got a super boosted immune system. And it's just like a fucking nightmare over there. And then after all that, after waiting like 3 weeks, then you get assigned to a basic training unit, and then you start your basic training, right? So this is before any of that. So you're like working out, you're getting fucking smoked all the time. Like I'm watching people like actively trying to die. And then I get to go and get hazed for 14 weeks.
Dude, the fact you can't even kill yourself right private. I can picture that. I believe that.
Well, it's funny too, because I used to tell that story, and you know, it sounds so far-fetched that like, you're like, dog, like this has to be bullshit. And I'm like, you know what? Like, you're right. It does sound like bullshit. But funny enough, there's a guy that I was playing. So I play, you know, quite a bit of video games. It's like, you know, a nice pastime of mine. So, I was in this Discord with a couple of my Army buddies, and I guess they had a guy come through that was, you know, probably like, you know, 3 years behind me or whatever. But he had heard the exact same story and told it to me in the Discord. And I was like, I was there. Like, this was my group. Like, I'm the one who told everybody about this. And he was like, dude, no fucking way. Like, I've never met somebody who was there. And I was like, yes, like this happened in front of me, like my first day. And so like that at least confirmed to me that like I am now a part of like Army history, like recruits that go to that specific training center to like be sent to their units are talking about the shit that I saw. Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I don't think it's far-fetched at all. I could totally see that. I mean, dude, there's literally buildings that Apple has to put nets around to catch these people. Like that doesn't sound far-fetched at all. I'm sure if you go back to Fort Benning, I'm sure there's now nets just around the barracks.
There could be. There very well could be. It's been a long time since I've been back, but
like well, that was poor timing. Yeah, I mean it's just so it's crazy. So, what did you learn working in Congress?
What did I learn? I learned that honestly, if you think that the people in Congress are the ones pulling the string, you're wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're just as much of cattle as we are. Like they're human beings, like just like us, and they unfortunately they have put themselves in a position to be led astray by lots of other groups and people and money and things like that. But like when they start, they're just like me. Like they're just like who I was when I first started working with them.
Well, they're trying to make a difference. Or they hope to make a difference.
And then they get shut down, and then you figure out who's really, making differences, and then you just kind of ride out your time. If you want to continue doing that and keep getting paid and, all that, then so be it. But for the most part, like, their decisions mean very little, and we saw with like the flipping of the Democrat on that bill that just got passed last week. It was like all conservative, and then they only needed one extra vote, and one of the Democrats flipped and voted for it. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but we see things like that happen all the time, where it's like they needed a person, and so they got a person.
I think it's all theater at this point.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's all theater. I think that was already probably predetermined. I think like these like close votes and all this shit. It's just like to keep the public watching. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, dude, this vote was 53-49.
Yeah.
Like, they probably already knew who was gonna vote which way.
Yeah.
They've probably already predetermined it. They're like, all right, let's keep them entertained. Let's keep it close. Mm-hmm. Keep it close. But this side's gonna win. Yeah. This side's gonna win. The uniparty always wins. Mm-hmm. You talk about like you learn that the people they weren't calling the shots, and it's very apparent, right? Like 2024, 98% of the candidates who won their primaries all took money from AIPAC. Mm-hmm. 98%.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because from being a campaign manager, you very soon figure out that popularity means very little in running campaigns. I would say 85 to 90% of congressional campaigns or Senate campaigns that are won is won by who has more money, not by who has more fans, right, or more followers. And like I said, luckily for me, in my district that I ran, Congressman Bill Arakis had already kind of built his foundation because his father was congressman over the same district for like 20 years before that, right? So they knew his name, they knew his face, they saw him, they knew when he was practicing law. Like he had this embedded property of the community that a lot of other congressional members like don't get when they go to run in places. And you know, people do a lot of this thing called district shopping where like they'll find a district that kind of aligns with what they believe, and they'll move from California, or they'll move from New York, or they'll move from New Hampshire or whatever, and they'll go to like Minnesota, they'll go to North Dakota because they're district shopping, right? They're looking for the most likely place to get into Congress, and then they just ride it out from there.
Huh.
And that happens a lot. Yeah, there was a sheriff that actually lost his run while I was there. His name was Sheriff Pendergrast. And he had won in that district, but I'm almost positive that he had ran for a congressional position in the district adjacent to ours. He had ran for a congressional position and lost, and then saw that there was a sheriff's position open and then ran for that in our district 2 years before and won. And then he lost his position when I was there to another man who was, I think it was the chief of police, and he ended up beating him out. But yeah, there's a lot of that going on too, where like people are so desperate. Bless you.
Thank you.
People are so desperate to be put in these positions and be involved in congressional or like local government matters.
Ooh, we're back. My bad. I had to sneeze and then fucking snot everywhere. Have you been keeping up with Thomas Massey? Thomas Massey's.
I do. Honestly, lately it's been hard for me to keep up with a lot of politics because having, you know, I went to college for global studies, and I have minors in Russian language and political science, right? So I've been involved in like politics and like basing my life around politics and geopolitics and stuff for a very long time now. And lately it's all just been so infuriating that I do have to take a step back from it a lot. You know, unfortunately for work, like I have to be a little involved, but I try to stay out of a lot of the mainstream media outlets because it is all just so fabricated. It's all so curated to be a specific thing for the public. And it's like after me being in it, like I hear it, like I recognize it, I know it, because like unfortunately, like they teach you to do the same things. And like I used to talk to people on the phone like that, right? Like answering constituents. Like you answer a certain way, you make people feel a certain way, you think a certain way, because you want that to be the public image. And so I'm aware of Thomas Massey and I know what he's been doing, but if there's anything that's happened recent, I'm probably not as keen on it because it's just too much for my brain right now.
It's interesting, or this one's been particularly interesting because they have spent an exorbitant amount of money to make sure he doesn't win. So this has been a really interesting one because he refuses to take any AIPAC money, or I think the other one's the World Jewish Coalition or something. I think that's the other one. And he refuses to take the money. And they have spent, I think as of yesterday, I saw something that they spent more money per voter than any other election ever. Per voter, like almost like a per capita thing, right? And I think it was AIPAC or one of those organizations have spent at least $20 million of money just purely on smear campaigns. And then they came up with this, they started running this story of like sexual assault last week with his ex-girlfriend. They found somebody and got her to say a bunch of stuff, whole 9 yards. And so like I have, you know, you see people like actively trying to keep people from winning, and then there's people that they tell us are crazy and not to pay attention to, and they spend so much money on it. But it has been fascinating, this one, because like there is a very intentional effort that is not, they're not even hiding it. It's very obvious. And this has just been interesting because it's like, you want to believe, obviously, to your point, you want to believe in Thomas Massey. You want to believe that there is potential for hope and change in the non-violent way.
Mm-hmm, of course.
It feels like that. It feels less likely each and every day.
Yes.
It feels very less likely each and every day, but it is, you do get hopeful for these kinds of guys that they really seem like he stuck his neck out. And again, it could all be theater, right? It could always all be theater, but he has stuck his neck out. And he's taken a lot of heat, I'm sure, lots of security threats, lots of death threats. And, I'm sure it's probably been super stressful, but Trump has obviously painted him as this awful person as well. And so it's been...
And he's a conservative. Like, he has been in support of the right for... however long he's been in Congress.
Yeah.
And so now, because he's not a MAGA conservative, now he's going to get all this backlash from that group. And I'll stand up for him a little bit, right? Where people don't think about it like this, right? The same way the Constitution's set up for like freedom of religion, let's say. It's also the freedom to not practice any religion at all. Right? And the same thing for him, his right to be a member of Congress and voted in by his constituents doesn't mean that he has to make legislation. His sole purpose could be denying it, which is what he's doing.
Yeah.
And
some good, some ones that should be fucking denied.
Exactly,
that
right?
Kill switch.
Yep.
That still made it through, even though he very much lobbied against it. They're putting kill switches in all new cars made after 2026.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
And then the AI that's going into the cars. It's always in the guise of safety and for the betterment of society.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, it'll stop drunk drivers. It'll shut the car off. And it's like, okay, that's cool and all, until they just decide that they don't like you.
Yeah.
Like, and just the UK just approved the digital IDs officially.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah. So we're heading into a very dystopian time.
I know it's an interesting offshoot of the multiverse that we've found ourselves in. Like, when did we get we drew the stick for the pedophile vampire version of Earth or whatever is going on?
Dude, our age group has been through so much.
Oh, absolutely, so much.
So much. And we're also like the age group that is the most aware, it appears. And I think the younger groups are waking up in some different ways. They definitely have lost their marbles in some fashions. But it feels like our age group is the one that kind of has their head on the best, it seems. And maybe it's just biasness, but it's like we kind of understand some of the progressiveness, and then we also kind of understand some of the old traditional values. And we try to find this like middle ground where it's like, yeah, probably shouldn't do all that, but whoa, hey, yo, y'all chill, bring it back, right? And it seems like we try to find this middle ground because I think the answer is always somewhere in the middle. But dude, I mean, it's just data centers, ticks, Epstein files, and that's just all right now. And then Project Bluebeam.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started about Bluebeam.
Is going off all at the same time.
So I'm gonna blow your mind right now, right?
I'm ready for it.
So I've got a buddy who works with a specific defense company that I won't disclose for safety, but they produce a fighter jet that we're all very, very well versed on. And the next generation has a weapon on it that they don't have a name for yet. But when they use it, they call it turning on the music.
Is this what they used in Venezuela?
I don't think so. But it might be an offshoot of it.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That story is nuts.
It is crazy. But this... I can't say whether it's a part of the same thing, but it probably is, right? Like they're probably all alluding to the same thing, but they call it turning on the music, right? And so basically this beam that they turn on that you can't see, you can't detect, if it's on you for like 5 seconds, you have tumors growing in your body. And then, because it uses the radio frequencies of the electrical equipment, like in other crafts or like mechanical things, to produce radiation. And so after, it's like 3 or 5 seconds or whatever, you have tumors, like cancerous tumors in your body. And then after 15 seconds, you're basically dying of radiation sickness. And then after 30 seconds, you basically turn into a hard-boiled egg and fucking explode. And with the implying of, like, let's say, Project Bluebeam is actually happening, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to get this big false flag of this, like alien armada or whatever it is that's like coming to destroy Earth, and we all have to unite to do whatever. It's like, me and you are going to look at that and we're going to get, that's bullshit, right? But you know what we're not going to say is bullshit? Whenever some giant supersonic plane we've never seen before runs across the Golden Gate Bridge and people start exploding in their cars, I'm gonna go, oh my God, that's fucking aliens.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you hit me with a radiation gun and then I have cancer now? Like, that's definitely aliens, right?
Except for the fact that the White House posted on May the 4th, it was like, May the 4th, may the force be with you. Uh-huh. But it was specifically saying that they had direct energy weapons.
Yes. I did see that.
And you're like, that's what we're doing now?
Yeah.
We're just dropping it like it's a holiday?
Oh, no, and they also posted those clips of, what was it, those like UAPs that...
they're slowly releasing the files,
right?
Which is just the whole part of the Project Bluebeam. It's like the whole part of it. It's just a fucking distraction.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, do I think aliens is an interesting topic? Absolutely. But the more and more this stuff starts to come out, the less and less I believe in it. It's not doing the same thing like what people think it's going to do. It's like, dude, now I'm just even more convinced it's just a part of the defense sector, a part of the military. Like, they reversed engineer something. They figured something out.
Yeah.
And then you have all these scientists dying and being killed.
I saw that, yeah.
And you're like, they built something. And now they're getting rid of the people who built it.
We're basically the Soviet Union at this point.
It's the same thing. I think about Putin a lot.
Putin's an interesting guy.
I think about Putin a lot because I'm like, is Putin this complete evil devil we've been led to believe? Mm-hmm. Or is Putin just someone who stands on business?
Yeah.
Because I think about it, right? And like, he's been talking about the Epstein files for a decade. He was like, the West fills their bellies with the flesh of children.
Yeah. And he's been saying all this shit.
He's said this for a long time. Yeah. And apparently he stopped a very large amount of sex trafficking. It's been a part of his thing. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the guy is probably an asshole.
Of course.
And I'm sure he's definitely probably taken some people out near him, and that.
Well, he's a sociopath, right?
Yeah,
to be a part of the KGB, to be a part of Mossad, to be a part of CIA, like, they look for those types, right? Because they want people who are going to blindly follow orders and not have, feelings about it, right?
Yeah.
And he fits that docket like super well, right? Like he checks all the boxes on that. But like I said, I have a minor in Russian language and area studies, and it's interesting to watch because I think that now, Russia aligns more with like Christian values like in America than any other group does now at all, right? Like, they kind of have the same feelings that we do. They want, less involvement from the government. They want, to have their churches respected but not commanding. And I find that to be very, very peculiar, right? When talking about geopolitical relationships between, especially between two world superpowers, right? Like, we don't have a whole lot in common with China, right? But we do have quite a bit in common with Russia. And it would seem like our relationships would be very good and very lucrative, but there's been something in between that's caused all this friction point.
Yeah, he just doesn't fuck with people who fuck kids.
Exactly. Like, there's like probably some points that he could make that would make everybody go, well, he might be right.
Well, dude, he talked about it when Lex Friedman interviewed him. He talks about how, and look, I'm not saying you go around invading other countries, right? I'm not saying you go in and invade Ukraine, the whole 9 yards, right? Like, that's not not what I'm saying when I think about Putin a lot. What I mean is just like, I do think about his point of view for why he did those things. Because
Absolutely.
he talks about how the West has just tried to dick him around for so long. And they've been so disrespectful. And they have broken every little bit of treaty that we signed after World War II. And we have just constantly said, fuck you, what are you going to do about it? And we've constantly done that. And then, I'm only halfway through. I don't know if you've seen this, but Zelensky's press secretary, or his former press secretary, was just on Tucker Carlson talking about how he might be the main reason why there hasn't been peace.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because I watched Zelensky's interview on Lex Fridman, and I have a buddy who's Ukrainian, and we'll talk about it from time to time. And I told him straight up the day I watched that interview, I was like, I don't trust that guy.
Yeah.
At all. Not a single part of me. I feel for the Ukrainians that are having to fight this war and who are dying because of it, and also, I'm sure there's a lot of Russians who don't want to fucking be there either.
Yeah, of course. They're all conscripted as well,
There's the Russian motto has always just been as many people that I can throw at the problem as possible. And there's just, they're throwing everybody. But I also don't think Ukraine is very innocent. The government's not.
Not at all.
Not innocent, dude.
When I was in college, I wrote a paper, and I wanted to challenge myself because I was very. This was before I started looking into it more, but I was still very against Russia and very in support of Ukraine. And not to say that I'm not in support of Ukraine defending themselves. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But I wanted to challenge myself as to what would be the most morally dictating reasons why Russia would react that way to Ukraine trying to join NATO, right? And I had to put it in perspective of, let's take California, for example, right? If California broke off and decided it was an independent state right now, it would have, I think it's in the top 10 largest populations in the world, top 5 in GDPs, top 5 in agricultural sector rankings, right? They're a big, big state with a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of power. Let's say they decided they were going to become a nation state. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we're not a part of America. We're open to doing, trade deals and blah, 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 and this and that. Now, China comes and buddies up next to them and is like, hey, man, how's it going? You want to be friends? And they, make them a deal they obviously can't refuse. And then all of a sudden, we have Chinese embassies on the borders of, Nevada and Arizona and Washington and all these places, right? Would America not immediately start invading the nation state of California to get the Chinese away from us, right? And the same thing's happening with Ukraine if you look at it like that, right? He's like, I don't want you this fucking close to me. Please go away. And we're like, no, we're going to get closer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't even think we have to be hypothetical about it. Just look at the Bay of Pigs. We almost blew Cuba off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Cuba almost did not.
Sunk into the ocean.
Almost just ceased to exist.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for JFK, Cuba just wouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
We don't even have to, we're going to do the same thing, right? And it's funny that you bring up, you use China as an example where recently, so obviously with this whole Iran thing, Trump is trying to get deals done with China, which I think is honestly, it's very bad. I think it's very bad for Iran. I think if Trump and China get deals done, then I think Iran's about to get eviscerated.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's very bad because I think the only thing stopping this whole thing is China and Russia publicly coming out. And obviously they're by proxy, they're sending missiles to Iran, etc. But publicly coming out and saying, no, we're backing Iran. If you go in there, we're going to start sending bombs. We're going to start throwing our own bombs around. And I think that's the only way that this gets squashed, right? And so I think Trump is trying to get these deals done with China. And this motherfucker tweeted, it was sometime in the last week, he tweeted, I'm not even upset with Chinese businessmen coming over here and buying all this farmland next to military bases and all that. I think it's a good thing for the American economy. And I'm like, Hold on.
Wait,
hold on, bro.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah,
Just the way you said it.
Well, you saw the clip of him going, they were asking him, so does the gas prices and the economic crisis make you want to like pull back on Iran at all? And he was like, nope, I don't give a fuck about the American people. And I was just like, dude, this is crazy, though. We got, like, the level of which we got played is so insane to me. And then liberals would be like, or the far left would be like, oh, well, we told y'all. And it's like, you were right on the surface, but you're not right because of the reasons why you think you're right.
Yes.
Right? You're right because, yes, he bought out just like everybody else did, and he has completely went down that path. But you're not right because it's a Republican thing or it's a Trump thing or no, dude. It's a fucking Israel thing. They want what they want to get done will get done.
It is a controlling party thing. Whatever portion of that government is involved with our portion of government that actually has pull in the drafting of legislation and acceptance of it, like, yes, absolutely.
And so it's like, yeah, sure, y'all were right on the surface, but, y'all are still kind of missing the mark here because they'd be like, oh, well, this administration. Oh, well, this administration. It's like, dog, this has been happening since the 60s.
They're all the same. Yeah, they're all involved.
Yeah, this has been since JFK. There has not been a real president. And then the last president before that, the last president since then, they framed Nixon. Mm-hmm. Like, framed him for Watergate. Now, he was guilty of covering up Watergate, but he didn't do it. He was asking questions.
And they were doing it already.
He found out, allegedly, he had found out about what happened to JFK for real. Mm-hmm. And he knew who did it. And that's when that whole Watergate thing started coming out. Because he started asking questions about the powers that be. And they don't like that.
They do not. The high table is very, very critical of that shit.
They don't like that at all, dude. Man. So you said that, down the line, you're looking to start running combat operations through Project Liberty. What are y'all doing now?
So right now we are just trying to be advocates, right? Like that is our main push. That we're trying to be advocates for victims, for, just human trafficking as a whole. We want to empower people in any way possible, right? And that starts with information, right? So I write a lot of stories and highlight a lot of aspects of these accounts from these women that you wouldn't think about is trafficking, but falls under the same category, right? And there's
What's an example?
Of what, a story or an example of trafficking itself?
You said that's something that you wouldn't think falls under trafficking, but is
arranged marriages is a huge one. Probably the biggest portion of trafficking is through arranged marriages, right? And some of those women are, unfortunately, they have to be complacent, like in this arranged marriage space, like that they've found themselves in, because it's their only way to get out of their situation, right? And, they get bought by whoever, and they go and do that, and it's like you're gambling, right? Like you go off and you get married to a guy who is rich or whatever, and lets you do whatever you want, or you get trafficked further, and then you get sold off again. And this happens a lot more times than not. Unfortunately, there's a woman that I wrote a paper about, and she was born into a family that was in the child pornography production ring. And she was born into it. So from infancy until she was 13, she was, voluntold that she had to be in these videos, these curations of, whatever they were selling or creating and whatnot. And then from there, she got shipped to Canada, and she spent 11 years in Canada, jumping from house to house, being trafficked over and over again. And then she was rescued and then trafficked again by the person who rescued her. right? So it's like we have these repeating cycles, right? It's horrible. And then she's, I think she's 34 and she's getting a master's in psychology and she's like trying to help victims, right? And she was able to make her life turn around, after she got the help that she needed. And it was from...
What up, y'all? I know I'm interrupting the conversation. I apologize, but I do need to quickly talk to you about Redmond Real Salt. I've been using this salt for a couple of years. I cook with this every single day. It is my absolute favorite salt in the entire world. And you now, as a What's Up Brodey listener, you can get 15% off by using the code Brodey, or on my Instagram in the bio, you can follow that link to checkout. You'll get 15% off as well. Now, back to the conversation.
An organization like mine that she reached out to for help finally in her life, and they were able to get her. She was born in Colorado. She was an American citizen, and there was no documentation of her ever existing. So she was living in Canada, supposed to have rights as an American, and never had any of it, and couldn't get herself out of this situation. And because of organizations similar to mine, she was finally able to get out of that scenario and like live a normal, healthy life. And I'm sure there's so many things that she's having to deal with now, health concerns and whatnot that I have, no information about, but I can't even imagine the amount of trauma that someone like that has been through. And then a lot of people don't think about, when you think of human trafficking, you think of, people getting abducted off the streets, children, and they're, being forced into sex slavery and things like that. But organ trafficking is arguably larger than sex trafficking, right? And people are being gutted just because they want to sell organs on the black market. They want to sell stem cells. They want to sell kidneys, livers, hearts, lungs, like everything for transplants. I mean, even like skin grafts. So people are being treated like cattle. And I think last year, it's estimated that between 25 and 50 million people were reported to be trafficked, right? And that's just of what was reported, not of what, I would say out of all of that, that's maybe 40% of all cases in the world, right? Like there's probably 300 million people trafficked every year. Like that's close to the entirety of the United States being forced into sex slavery, organ trafficking, labor trafficking, and we don't even know about it, right? Like, can you imagine the scale of that? And there's so little, I feel like, that is being done to combat that, right? Like just the safety of not only Americans, but human beings in general. Like it's not something that's being focused on enough. And what we've seen from the Epstein files is that when people want it covered up, they cover it up. And when they want it to be known, they make it known. And so when people like me catch wind of it, only whenever the entities at B make it known to me, I've already failed, right? It doesn't help me any to know about something after it's happened. I'm in the business of prevention, right? And because of that, I'm now, I'm just in the situation of trying to let people know beforehand what to teach your children, what, fathers teach their sons, what mothers teach their daughters, things like that. And, communities can come together and actively combat this without my help, right? But sometimes you just don't know where to start. And I think that it starts with organizations like mine that, go around and I mean, it's completely free. Like I will give anybody any information. I will go do a seminar anywhere to talk about how you can actively combat human trafficking from just your own home. Because a lot of people, you think about human trafficking, like I said earlier, it's like, people getting snatched up and forced into sex slavery, but the reality of human trafficking is it doesn't start with a crime scene. It starts with a relationship. And 90% of people that are trafficked by somebody they know, right? So, if you've got young kids and they have a big online presence because social media is so prevalent now, it is a number one tool in the trafficking space. Like when people want to lure unsuspecting victims or children or, people who have been victims their whole lives, it's very easy to manipulate them. So, keeping a digital footprint low is honestly the best thing you can do for your child. It's like their access to their own versions of social media, you know, whether it's online gaming or actual social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. That is like as a parent, that is your front line against their innocence.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's tough though, because you're in this world where there's like two sides to that, right? Where you're in this world where if you're the parents that keep your kid off of social media or you stop them from having a phone, then you're the bad guys, right? Like, oh, come on, all my friends have it, right? I already envisioned that portion. But then the other side of it is like, you know, if you don't want your kid to be a part of this corporate slop, or if you don't want them to have to go down that line, well, the other aspect is building a brand or being an entrepreneur, doing something like that also requires then a social media presence at this point. Like it's really, really difficult to run anything right now without social media. It's just tough to a certain scale, right?
Right, I'm sitting here being critical of social media while we're like participating actively in social media, and it's hard to advocate for too, because like I have to do this to like let people know, but then it's like I want everybody to be like, okay, now stay away from it.
I know,
right?
I know. It's interesting, right? Like I don't post the kid on social media no more. I did for like a very short period of time, but then the Epstein file stuff came out, and then you fucking find out about like the school photos, and like half of the school photos were owned by that company, and they were using those photos as like a shopping list, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man.
Right? And then you got like people generating AI, either like
taking their clothes off and stuff.
It's like, okay, all right, we're done doing all that. That ain't happening no more. But then again, you know, she's gonna hit a certain age, and I want her to not feel like she has to go down this like traditional path where she has to go to college and then she has to go find a job, where it's like so many of us know that is a potentially very unrewarding path of life, right? Like there's not a lot of people. I think it's like 50 or 60% of people are unsatisfied with their job or something like that, right? There's a large amount of people who just dislike what they do, but it pays the bills and whatever, right? And so they just do what they got to do. But I feel like you can catch that early on, and you can push them down a path where it's like, no, like these things are possible. Like you can do this, but it often does require a social media presence.
Yeah. Well, and you know, once you've taught them the dangers of social media, and they have a very well-rounded perspective, then they can open themselves up to that world and be able to identify, this is bad and this is not, and that yet again is still in a way combating trafficking, right? Because if their methods stop working, then that causes them to find a new avenue, right? So having, if you have a child that is going to have social media at some point, right?
Sure.
As they're being brought up, it's probably a good idea for them to have a really, really good understanding of like what danger signs are online. And I'll say, I would say the biggest ones right now is love bombing is a huge one, right? Like people you meet online, they become very emotionally giving very quickly, that want to gain your trust. So that's a huge one that's been seen. Then it's secrecy, right? Like there's no reason why an adult should be convincing a child of secrecy, right? Like unless it is, I mean, even if it's your own parents, like secrets are not supposed to be in a household, like with families, right? Like, but at least between a child and an adult, right? Between adults, it's different, but with children and adults, like that's a big red flag, at least in my experience. I think that happens because, like I said, it's you get trafficked by people most times, especially younger children, things like that, and it's like. And then it makes you, as a parent, more skeptical of like who you bring around, like how conversations are being had, with your children while you're not present. It could be people at school, it could be teachers, it could be people, administrators, anything. It's all over the place. So love bombing and secrecy, and then gifts. It's really easy to send gifts through the internet now, right? Money, games, like on Steam, you can send your friend a game, right? Like it's a gift. Like you don't have to ask their permission. You don't have to tell them anything. And funny enough, on Steam, there's some pretty disgustingly made video games that are, extremely sexual and have all kinds of stuff. It's like, what happens whenever your kid meets some guy on Roblox and then he starts sending your child these like weird sexually active games? Like, and you have no idea of knowing. It doesn't send you a notification. It doesn't send you an email. It doesn't tell you. You just have it. All of a sudden, it's in your thing, and they get to go, hey, look what I sent you. And then they download it. They start playing. They start sharing, whatever between each other, and then they're hooked, right? It's like, okay, well now let's talk about meeting up. Let's talk about exchanging phone numbers. Let's talk about doing all these things. And this could, take 6 months, or it could take 3 days. Children are so susceptible to everything, and even people in bad situations. And it's unfortunate too, because not only are children in the highest demographic of people who are susceptible to trafficking, but children who are in homes that are part of like the LGBTQ community are even more susceptible, because most of the time they are seeking acceptance elsewhere. Right. So then you have like a lot of these boys who are like, quote unquote transgender, or girls who are transgender, and they have specific websites and apps and chat rooms and things like that. And so they're even more marginalized, and they get trafficked more often than anybody, at least in like the traditional form of trafficking. In third world countries, it's a little bit more like kind of cattle driven, where they just kind of round people up and people disappear. But specifically in the United States, like that happens so often. And there's a story that I wrote about, which unfortunately there was a gentleman who, he was a teenager and he was gay, and he was living in San Antonio, and he met up with an older gentleman that he met on a dating app. And I think at the time he was like 16 or 17. And he got trafficked for like 3 months. Just poof, gone. And after the third day, your chances of being found is like almost none. So yeah. I can't even begin to imagine like the journey that takes. Like, you're already struggling as a person to like find yourself, and then you get punished for it, right? Like that's what a miserable existence. Like that makes me feel so terrible for them. And I'm not, when it comes to human trafficking, I could give a shit less about sexual orientation or religion or color or anything, right? It's us against trafficking, right? It doesn't matter who you are or what you believe in or whatever. If you are getting trafficked, I will look at you in the same light as anyone else, right? Because I know that there is certain people who would argue that it was their fault for being put in that situation, right? Where I think that a lot of the issues that the world is facing right now is because of a lack of love and not because of stupidity, right? Like if those children were loved more, then they wouldn't have made those choices to change so many physiological and neurological things about themselves to then kind of expose them to the dangers of manipulation.
Well, I think the issue, I think in tandem with that, is that people then misconstrued what love actually is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right. It's the same kind of it's that same kind of thing as like niceness versus kindness. Like being kind to someone and being nice to someone. Being nice to someone typically does not serve that person. Mm-hmm. Being kind to someone, that typically then serves them in a positive light, but it can come off to other people as you're being a dick to them, or you don't care about them, and it's like, no, it's like some things don't need to be enabled, right? Some things need to be called out. Like you need to like talk to that person and be like, hey, like what you're doing is not okay, or like this behavior is not okay, or like whatever it is, right? And so it's interesting because it's like, I think in a lot of those cases, I think that, maybe the parents do think they are loving the kid, but not in like the way that it's supposed to be done. Right? We're seeing just all sorts of things, dude. Like kids being furries and all this, just like a very interesting things. And then parents think that they are loving their kid by and then accepting it, or like allowing that to go down that path. And it's like, man, this is a weird thing to go down.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting. Are you familiar with the work of like Mariana Van Zeller? No, have you? She's been on Joe Rogan a few times. She runs a show called Trafficked on Hulu. And there was an episode that we had watched that just kind of blew my mind. Like, it was something that I just never thought of. And I think that's, a lot of this stuff like being talked about. It's like things that people aren't actively thinking about. They're so wrapped up in their day. How are they going to pay for groceries? What do they need? Like, did they make their grocery list? Like, did they pay for gas? Like, et cetera, right? So like they don't always have the time to think about this, because then when they sit down to watch something, it's something to escape from. It's supposed to be entertaining. And not everybody wants to watch things that like this or regarding this or information when it comes to like trafficking and whatnot. And so one of the episodes she did was that, like when you get scam calls, a lot of the people doing the calls are being trafficked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was something that just kind of like
labor trafficking, man,
blew me away. And so like it's she was particularly investigating one in Myanmar, right outside of Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And what she was noticing is that girls were getting picked up in Vietnam and then trafficked into Myanmar, where there is a very highly corrupt government, and there is this humongous like plaza owned by this like Chinese businessman. And he owns just this huge, like all these like old apartments, and he just keeps all these people in there. And they are then, like they're either raped or all these awful things are happening to them, and they're being forced to then do the scam calls and like doing these, where they're reaching out and they're like, hey, I really love you and da 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 da. And they're perpetuating a lot of this, but the people perpetuating it are also being trafficked themselves. Yeah. Like, that's a fucking mindfuck.
Yeah.
Like these people,
the inception of trafficking.
Yeah, it's dude, like they're reaching out to you and they're playing the same game. Yeah. And they're trying to, usually it's like a crypto scam or some kind of like cash app or like some kind of like, get money. And like you got people losing, millions of dollars to these scams. And then the people doing the scamming are also being trafficked. You're just like,
but they know no different. Like, it's like, for them, it's normal life because it happens at such a young age. And like, that is a hard part of trafficking in itself, is like when you are trafficked for so long, like, especially from the time of a child, like, most of those girls were probably very young whenever that happened. I mean, even boys too, boys get trafficked, I would say, almost as much as girls do. But, it's like when that's the only thing you accept what you think is normal, right? So they feel that this is like the only option that they have in life. So they participate in it in hopes that, whoever's in charge has incentive to like give them more, right? Because they probably do that. I'm sure that there's cases of that, not that I found in particular, but there's probably cases of that in general where, there is incentives of like, oh, if you get this amount of X, then we will give you Y and Z. So, whether that be food or clothes or the availability to like go in public, just like very normal things that me and you don't think about. I'm sure that they're experiencing that every day on such a huge scale, and they're fighting each other to be like, they are working hard for the people that enslaved them because they know nothing else. And it's a horrible cycle. Like you just said, it's like, the layers of like how they've woven them all together to create like traffickees become traffickers, and now you've got a whole army of minions that they do your dirty work for you, and then it's basically like the world's worst pyramid scheme, right? Yeah. The guy on top gets all the money, and all the people on the bottom get fucked the whole time.
Yeah, I mean it's awful, dude. It's just something that people, you don't think about. You don't think about like the person reaching out to you is also the person being tortured.
Yeah.
It was just a mind fuck, dude. She does really great work. Like,
I'll have to go watch. I haven't.
Yeah, there's like 5 seasons on Hulu.
I don't watch almost any television, like at all. The only thing that I keep up with is Game of Thrones. So that like I don't watch any of these. But I will say that there's a very interesting case of trafficking that didn't get as much traction as it deserved. But did you ever watch? There was a docuseries on Netflix quite a few years ago now. I think it was like 3 or 4, called "Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey." It's about the FLDS, Warren Jeffs. It's an offshoot of the Mormon Church. They're fundamentalists of the Mormon Church. And he basically, in Mormonism, Zion is heaven, right? Like they believe that heaven's a physical place that you go to. And Warren Jeffs was the leader. Him and his father were the leaders of this offshoot of the Mormon Church. Which if there's anybody watching who doesn't understand like what fundamentalisms of different religions are, it's like the same thing that ISIS is to Islam, right? They're a fundamentalist group they have taken it so far in one direction that it's no longer the same thing anymore. So they kind of did this with Mormonism, and they were in this portion of New Mexico where they were in a very tight-knit community. And Warren Jeffs, it kind of started as, they proclaimed themselves as gods, him and his father. And then his father died, and he said that his father's spirit transferred into him, and he was now like the god of these people. And, they started taking businesses away from the members of the church. They started seizing houses. They started making families live together. Polygamy is a huge thing with them. So Warren Jeffs himself, I think, had like 20-something wives, ranging from in their 50s all the way down to like 12 or 13 or something. But basically when this started turning into a trafficking issue is he wanted to create Zion on earth. And because he believed, he believed, or maybe he didn't believe, and he just was bullshitting everybody, and he made everybody else believe that he was like a god amongst humans, he bought a plot of land in Texas and built a giant church on it that he called Zion. And he took all the children from the community and took them to Zion. And there's audio recordings in the docuseries of him raping girls between the ages of 5 and 13. Because he would record them, and all of his wives would participate and watch and video record and all of these things. And that's a trafficking issue. Like he is now crossed over the line of being like this, honestly just a piece of shit, to being even more of a piece of shit, right? And who's now a trafficking piece of shit. And thank God, he is still in prison, but his wives still, they meet with him once a week, and he gives them his preachings, and then they preach it back to their community, right? Like when you grow up thinking that is normal, then you don't know how to recognize it when it continues happening down the line. And, they had testimonies of people who had left the community and talked about, things like that and whatnot. But there was members that were, old and moved away, and they were like, oh, well, I just separated from the group, but I still believe what they're doing is great. And they have no remorse for anything that happened to these poor innocent children and families that had, they were just looking for sanctuary, community, camaraderie between each other. And there's so much fucking evil in the world, man.
Yeah, are you familiar with like MK Ultra?
Yeah, of course.
It's ties into that. Like it's very similar in that regard, right? Where it becomes these people become very very manipulative, but in a very like charming way, or like, you talk about how the wives still go and visit him and all these things, and it's just like, I think that's a part of like what MK Ultra was and why it worked and why it still probably works. Like why, like you think of I don't remember what it was, but it was like a Project Acorn.
Oh, I've heard something of this.
Was it Project Acorn or Project?
I think it was Acorn. Acorn sounds.
It was recently resurfaced, and it had to do with one of the recent shootings or and how they pretty much kind of like MK Ultra the shooter, like almost like sleeper cells, and then they, kind of like woke him up, essentially, like quote unquote, like woke him up in order to do that shooting. And so it's like the whole like mind control shit. There's so much to it. So much going on. I gotta pee.
Oh yeah, you're
Hold
good.
that thought.
You're good.
And I gotta blow my nose. So I'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's the mind control stuff is freaky because they definitely did it. They definitely.
Oh
figured
yeah,
something out.
of course.
They definitely figured. They got the premise down for sure.
I mean, I always try to put in perspective for people, like, if you think that the government doesn't have the capability to do something, think about this. In World War II,
Was it Badger?
in World War II, there is.
It was codename Badger.
No, it's definitely like Project, and it started with an A. I'm almost positive. I don't know, like Project Acorn shooting.
Of course, we're not going to be able to find it now.
I saw it a few months ago. Sometimes it's hard to like re-find some things, and I try to save tweets for this exact reason. But nonetheless, you were saying like you try to put it in perspective for people.
Yeah, the capabilities of, like, especially just like the DoD, right? Where in World War II, or maybe it was slightly after, Cold War time period-ish, the SR-71 had a camera from atmosphere. They could read the headline of a newspaper with the camera on the SR-71. Yeah. Like, and that was in a time period where we didn't have fucking colored television.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have microwaves. Like, we didn't have anything.
I think we had microwaves. I think microwaves are like 1940 or something.
No, they're not. Microwaves?
Yeah.
Like a household microwave?
Yeah. Well, I know about MK Ultra, but there was something else that was there was recently some declassified CIA documents on other mind control products or projects, excuse me. But I don't remember what it was. But can you look up?
I typed in Acorn and nothing's pulling up.
That's okay. I might be able to find it later. And then, but can you look up when did the microwave?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's like 1945.
So it came out right at the end of World War II. But the question is, was it like a regular household item? Like, is it the microwaves like that
When did
we
it become
have?
widely available?
Microwaves were first introduced for home use in 1955.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Isn't the Cold War like the 90s?
No. Cold War is like...
The first popular
I think of
affordable
Desert Storm.
countertop was 1967. So 1955, they were huge and expensive, so not a lot of people had them. And then a company released a countertop line that was a lot more popular in 1967.
Got it. When was the Cold War?
1967, USS Liberty. Is there a coincidence?
Oh.
No.
Cold War was 1947 to 1991.
Yeah. So it stretched. Yeah, the Cold War is technically like people argue that the Cold War's still happening technically. Yeah, we still have the countdown timer. 30 seconds to midnight or whatever. I don't know what it's at now. It's probably like fucking.
That's funny that you bring that up because we were just
5 seconds.
We just looked this up a couple of episodes ago. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. But
yeah, the whole mess, like with the world, just at any moment we could
85 seconds to midnight.
85. Not as bad as I thought. There was a time when I thought it was really low, like 17 seconds or something.
I don't know, bro. I'm like...
We're like one bad day away from like just everything scorched earth, bro.
Dude, allegedly, this data center in McAllen, Texas, last month blew up. And apparently it's not the first data center has been blown up or has blew up or what. And then we were talking about earlier before this, the Utah data center. Mm-hmm. And I talked about it yesterday too. But right now, the biggest data center is in China. It's 230 acres. It's big. It's pretty big. Mm-hmm. The one in Utah that is proposed is 40,000 acres. And it's going to use double the amount of energy that the entire state of Utah uses.
Wow.
And it was 3 commissioners that voted on it. Just 3 people.
Like county commissioners?
I guess.
I think it would have to be.
I guess. And it was a unanimous 3-0 vote. And so Kevin O'Leary is the guy that is getting this done. And Tucker was interviewing him, and he was like, Kevin O'Leary was like, well, the people voted for it, like they approve it. And Tucker was like, who? And he was like, the vote was unanimous. It was 3-0. And Tucker was like, what the
Between you 3? Yeah.
3 people, bro? Like,
yeah.
You're telling me that a bunch of billionaires can't get 3 people on board? Like, what are we talking about, dude? And then we were talking briefly about how allegedly, I briefly saw this, I hadn't checked it, but allegedly that Nevada has announced that by 2027 they'll no longer route energy to Lake Tahoe, and 50,000 people will lose electricity because they're rerouting that energy to a data center.
I don't know how the legalities of that line out.
Well, do you think they really care about the legality of anything?
I mean, they have to in some capacity, right? Because if enough public attention happens, then projects start getting shut down because of, like it actually is affecting human life. And I would say that, regardless of how critical we are of the current situation in the government, there is still portions of it that operate freely and that operate in a way that kind of serves the people, and that in itself, I think that if we make that many people lose, just basic living capability, then there will be a significant more amount of like pushback from not only public entities but private ones as well, that will then see that a court is held and very, 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 very well-funded lawyers are present in defending those people in that area. Maybe, right? That's the question. Maybe, right? And I want to be more optimistic, right? And my coach, Joe. Joe is a great guy. I love Joe so much. And awesome. But when it comes to politics, Joe is very, he likes to ask questions, because he wants to understand. And he asked me one time, he's like, what are your feelings about voting, right? And this is my biggest thing on it, right? Is I do not want to think that my vote doesn't matter. I am a constitutionalist more than I am anything else. And so by that constitution, I have the right to make impactful decisions about my government. And therefore I vote because I want to see those things through and show that I am present and active in my community and my country in those things. So I don't want to believe that my vote doesn't matter. But do I think it matters? No.
Okay. I'm glad you brought it back around because I've had this discussion before.
I think unfortunately we have been fooled yet again, and there is, maybe our votes are taken into consideration, like
for what?
This much, but it's like there's this much that it's like, well, we don't really give a shit.
No one voted for these data centers.
No, God, no.
No one voted for this, right? Like no one voted for, I think Texas's, Corpus Christi's on like water watch, like it could lose water, like it lose all of its water because of this. And it's like, dude, no one voted for that. No one voted for that. And, it's like, it goes back to the whole like theater. It's theater. And it's really hard for a lot of people to accept this, especially older people.
Yes.
It's really hard for them to accept this because they have to accept that their entire life could have been a lie.
Exactly.
And that is fucking people up right now.
Well, if like just me and you in general, it's like if somebody came and told us that everything that we knew was a lie, like we would be fucking furious. But
I've accepted it.
Yeah, but we have the chance now, like we're so young that we have the chance now to like hopefully influence an entire generation to like stand up against this kind of stuff, right? But for them, their life's over.
Damn.
Right? Like they don't have more time. Like they can't get that back. We fortunately were born in a time period where like these things were brought to our attention, but they don't have anything else, right? This is what they believe for. Can you imagine us feeling like this, like that nobody's listening to the things that are going on for 60 years from now? Like, holy shit, I can't even imagine like the magnitude of like what you have to go through to be like, oh my God, I should have been doing something to fight this for years, and I haven't.
What's crazy is that there's a good chance that that's what happens. Yeah. Right? We're just shouting off from the rooftops, but nothing ever actually comes to fruition.
And that's what they want. They want us right at the edge of boiling, right? Where it's like civil war is just on the other side of the pot, right? And like tearing the whole thing down is just on the other side of the pot. But they want us to sit right on the boiling edge, right? So then when there's finally an excuse, like a real excuse for us to be like, nope, the whole thing's done, we're tearing it all down, we just sit there and we go, but is it really? Like, it might come around still, but it's not, right? And we're probably there now, honestly. Like, there's probably been enough that like this shit should have happened a while ago, but we're just stuck at in this limbo of like we're right on the edge, and they want us to be angry and emotional and marginalized and become more and more into these categories that they all define us in, right? As conspiracy theorists or as extremists or I don't know what's the other buzzwords that's going around. Any of it, right? And so these words are being used to criticize us and make us feel like we are no longer a part of the community. They're to alienate us, right?
Of course.
And
they've done it to so many people. Look what's like Kanye West right now. They're just they're like countries are telling him he can't come and perform.
Yeah.
Where people clearly have bought the tickets. Who are you to tell them they can't go see him? Regardless of how you feel about the guy, like, who are you to tell somebody that they can't go to his concert? Yeah. Because then you look up the photos from the LA concert and you're like, bro, I would have loved to have been there.
Yeah.
Like it's I mean, that man doesn't half-ass anything. You look at those photos and you look at the set and the production that they put together for that show, you're like, wow.
Regardless of what you think about him, he's an artist nonetheless. Like in every aspect. I mean, just the things that he does is very alluding to like just pure artistry, and it's original too, like he's one of the few people that I feel like, even if you don't like him, you can't argue that he doesn't come up with original substance.
You can't deny his greatness,
right? It's
as much as you try, but there's a reason why it continues to break through no matter what, no matter how many times they've tried to like shut everything down.
It's like trying to argue that like Hitler and Mussolini and all of them, it's like trying to argue that they were stupid.
Yeah.
Right? It's like they were probably bad people, but they weren't dumb. Like they were just as smart as the smartest people to ever do it. But like they're just because they're smart doesn't mean it makes them right.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? And Kanye, it's like the same thing. It's like whether you think he's right or not, you can't argue that he's not kind of a genius in the space that he's created. Like
Absolutely.
He's really done what honestly nobody else has. And I'll even bring up Trump in that aspect, right? Like if we go back and we look at politics, when C-SPAN was getting streamed, when what the hell is his name? He was with Al Gore.
Yeah.
Right? Al Gore changed how politics was ran because he was the first person on C-SPAN to call out the left directly. Everything was indirectly spoken about before then, right? But he called them out directly, like spoke to the television, was like, the left, the Democrats are doing this. It is this person and this person and this person, and they are doing this, right? So that changed the trajectory of like etiquette in politics forever, right? And then it changed again the first time Trump ran for office, because he was the first person ever to be, that crass and that outspoken and used social media to talk about politics. Like I don't remember Obama tweeting out, fuck you guys. Like, I don't remember McCain going on Instagram and posting a picture and being like, the left fucking sucks, right? Like this didn't happen. But then Trump comes around and he opens it up, and obviously, he's put on a pedestal because he's voted in as president, and they're like, oh, he did it, and he's the most, he's in the most professional position in the entire world. It must be okay to do this. And so now everybody thinks it's okay, and there's no respect across party lines, and that creates even more divide. And it's like, he is a horrible person, but it doesn't mean that he's dumb. Right? It doesn't mean that he himself is an idiot. Like, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Right? And whether or not there was other people that were involved in that matter of, like, trying to shape politics into more of a controversial issue, like where there was more divide created, whether or not he was the only one involved or indirectly did it and there was nothing, and we're just crazy and it just happened to go this way, regardless of the fact, it doesn't mean that he isn't a smart person that knows how to manipulate the system.
For sure. And I'm sure Marianne Adelson had something to do with that. And, you said something earlier about, like, us versus human trafficking. Like, it's a us versus them kind of thing. And it's the same thing right now with the government. Like, it's us versus them. And we have to realize that it is not left or right. There is nobody coming to save you. Like, it is not the left's fault. It's not the right's fault. It's literally just us versus the uniparty. Like, they are just running a massive. Again, it goes back to the theater thing. They're just, everything is under the guise of safety or under the guise of virtue. We've seen a ton of virtue signaling for a long time where they couldn't care less either, dude. Like, fucking California spent billions of dollars trying to fix the homelessness problem, and it just continues to get worse.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, where's that money going? Right? They passed a Nick Shirley bill so that he wouldn't continue to
expose
look into the fraud.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all this stuff that's going on, man. It's like, it's all madness. It's all craziness, dude. It's just like how, I don't understand how the Epstein files dropped and people are still on a side, like on a left or right side, or like still picking a team.
It's by design, man.
And it's just like, dude, they're all in there. There's still people, and I've talked about this ad nauseum too, there's still people talking about like how wonderful Obama was. And it's like, dude, do you think that, this occupation of the United States that started most likely around the JFK assassination and has went to present time, and it's now more apparent than ever before, do you think it just went through this entire cycle, this whole span of 80 years, and then got to Obama's presidency and just skipped over it?
Yeah.
The naiveness of that is so crazy.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go into like Anthony Weiner's laptop. You don't even have to go down that path. Just the fact that you think that it went all through all these presidents from Bill Clinton on, where it's very clearly like, I think before Bill Clinton was kind of like in the shadows. And Bill Clinton comes around and they're like, haha, found our in. And then now they're just like in it. Like, they're very much no longer in the shadows. They're not running it from the outside. I think they're largely in it. Like, you got Kevin Walsh now becoming the chairman of the Federal Reserve. And all these people are very much in positions on purpose. And it's like, you just think that it just went through all these presidencies, each president all bowing down to the same people, and then just skips over Obama's 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, one of the most influential presidents, like, in history.
It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to talk about the drone strikes. You don't have to talk about the Pizzagate.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about Hillary Clinton and all that mess either, right? We can. There's a whole nother slew of things there, right? And maybe I think about this sometimes too with Clinton, because Clinton technically, I would say, was in recent time the most successful geopolitical negotiator that we've had in a long time because of the whole thing that he did with Serbia and Albania, right? Where he got the U.S. into force Serbia out of basically annihilating all of Kosovo. Well, where Kosovo is now, it wasn't Kosovo at the time, but where Kosovo is now, and then bleeding into Albania, where, you know, Serbia is more primarily Muslim driven and instead of Christian driven like the other Balkan states. But I would say he was probably the best geopolitical negotiator at the time, because have you ever looked into Albania or anything at all?
No.
Albania is like the biggest fans of America ever, dude. I interned in Congress with a guy from Albania. His name was Frankie. He's a really great guy. He's back in Albania now. But he graduated from a master's program in Tirana, which is the capital of Albania, that was called New York University. And it had nothing to do with New York, right? Same thing like with they have like a bunch of like, you know, like gift shops and stuff, and they're all called like, you know, NYC gift shop, American gift shop, like all these things, because they love us because we like saved them from annihilation. And I think that they noticed that Clinton was a well-spoken politician at the time. And, you know, we can speculate about Monica Lewinsky and that whole thing, and, you know, maybe who she was working for and whatnot.
Or the fact that he is in Epstein's
foyer
in a dress in a ginormous painting.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, you're exactly right. They saw an opportunity and they took it.
Oh, of course.
They took it.
And I think also, like, I think they're still allowed to do some good things. Like I think these presidents still have, you know, there's still some minor wins that they have done. But the thing that I drive home is that none of that matters because we still got to this point no matter what. Right? Like how you were talking about with like the voting. I think there's still a lot of people that think like it's very, very important. You should go vote and it's your constitutional right and all these things. Go make sure you get your sticker, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, that's all fantastic. But no matter what, we still got to this point. Mm-hmm. We still have gotten to this exact moment where we are clearly ran by people who do not have the same values or morals as the populace. Like, they're not serving the people, they're serving themselves. They're getting abundantly rich. They're getting more and more power. They're these kill switches in the cars, the freaking data centers, these Palantir folks, like these, you know, these defense contractors that BlackRock, like, or Vanguard, like, that have an absorbent amount of power, an unfathomable amount of power. No matter how much you tell people, like, about BlackRock, I don't think they really understand
how much they actually cover.
Can do. You know, and then you have Larry Fink on Fox talking about how the woke agenda was a failed social experience. And he just says it out loud. He's just like, yeah, we failed. Like it didn't work. We tried. We pushed all of these companies in that direction, and we failed. Didn't work. And it's like, dude, he's just casually just saying this out loud. Yeah. And, you know, then you start to tell people, it's like, hey, you know, BlackRock is worth $13 trillion. That's more than every country in the world except for the U.S. and China. That's how much power these folks have. Like, they have so much sway. They own 80% of the top Fortune 500 companies. They can make these companies do anything they want just by simply saying, hey, we'll just pull out our money and you'll just fail tomorrow. Well, of course you're going to go down that path. Of course you're going to do what they say. You know, it's interesting. How do you feel on, should companies be able to go public? I don't know how I feel about this because no matter what, I just feel like we get to this point. No matter how you set it up, right? Think of a food company going public, right? Well, Tyson has to then, they have a obligation to their shareholders to increase profits each and every year.
Yeah.
All right, well, Tyson's not opening up a fucking merch store.
Yeah.
Right, like you're not buying Tyson t-shirts. That's not gonna move the needle for them. I'm sure they do sell shirts, but that's not gonna move the needle on their profit margin.
They want big movement. Yeah.
You have to constantly give more and more returns for your investors, or they just pull their money out.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have this publicly traded food company. So how do they increase profit? Well, you just skip out on more and more real ingredients, and you just put more and more fake bullshit into your food until it's just completely unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And that's how you continue to increase profits each and every year.
Yeah.
So, like, should a food company be able to go public and have to respond to a board and have to respond to investors? Like, should that be allowed? Like, I don't know. It's something I've been thinking about a good little bit, because I'm just like, I don't understand how you stop it from going that way. Because I don't think, the way I look at a lot of conspiracies is I think there's definitely very malicious and nefarious people at the very top of these things. But oftentimes a lot of this comes from just the nature of the job or of the role that they play, right? Where it's like, I don't think they started going like, hey, you know what, man? We're going to start pumping all these chickens with antibiotics and GMOs and all these things so that we can start killing a bunch of people and make them way more sick. I think that they do it because they want to make more money in the beginning, and then they realize that it's making people sick and killing people and harming people, but it's too late. Like, you can't turn it.
And then they cover their bases.
And then they start covering it up, and then they start pumping money into science journals to, you know, make sure that the scientists don't start to talk about how bad it is and all these things. We see it with red meat all the time. Like, I still had a lady on that commented on my video still trying to convince me that, like, red meat is just awful for you. You shouldn't do it. It's going to kill you. It's just like,
it's ridiculous.
It's like, dude, are you really quoting a study that was done in the late 60s that has very much been proven that they were completely bought and paid for by the sugar companies? Like, this is what we're quoting still? Like, that's crazy. And so, yeah, I think they get stuck in these cycles where it's like, okay, we need to increase profit, so let's cut corners here. And then they're not thinking about the repercussions in that moment. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's interesting to argue, especially in a capitalist market, it's hard to argue against public trading because as it is right now, the guys like me and you can't really buy into those kinds of companies, right? Like, you have to be in a certain threshold of money to be able to buy into like those portions of stocks. But if like I said, I consider myself a constitutionalist more than anything because I actually believe in it. And I think that it originally was there to protect us, right? If we start taking it away from them because we think that it's unfair, it's a slippery slope, right? Like, it is within their rights and within the reason of the market and those companies' rights, because they are privately owned, to open or close those as they please. And I don't want to see opportunities for Americans dwindle away to make money. I don't want to see them dwindle away because we decided that the people that are doing it right now are doing a really horrible job and they're, contributing to the issues. Because it's not to say that the trading aspect of it is the issue. The issue is the people who are monopolizing the trades and then forcing out the other buyers.
Well, they're able to manipulate the market. The market is easily manipulated. We see it.
Well, and insider trading is like it's so bad.
You see it how it's just like American Airlines was the most shorted, stock the day before 9/11. Coincidence? You see these things and it's just like, that's crazy. And I don't think it's just now. I think it's how it's always been, right? Like we're just now we have more information about it. We understand it more. And I just think that human nature will always take over.
Yeah, it's our downfall. Is that
always take over.
Laziness and greed and complacency are the things that plague human society because they force us like into comfortability and therefore being comfortable unfortunately is like the worst thing I think that humans can do is like voluntarily like choosing comfort over work is a huge downfall because whenever you don't understand what is required to make, things happen, like just think about the amount of manpower it takes to build a home, right? We are now, they're coming up with so many ways to like, make homes that are just like, it's like a box that folds out. You can order off fucking Amazon, right? Like where the laziness has now led to, every man in this community used to know how to build a house. Now half of them do. And then we skip forward 2 more generations and now half of those half do. And now we have, we fast forward to where we're at and it's one guy who knows how to make a house who is being told, well, we don't want real houses. We want houses that we can ship everywhere. And so he's like, okay, well, you take a box and you make it fold out and boom, there you go, presto, done. And they ship it straight to your house. And now there's men who are reading instructions on how to fold out the house, but know nothing else about how to maintain this or hook it up to, do electricity or plumbing or like any of these things. And so the deterioration of hard skills like that is a prime example of where laziness and being comfortable has plagued us because if everything went down tomorrow, how many guys out there know how to like upkeep like just their little home, right? And it allows you to be lazy, and being lazy then makes you more susceptible to corruption, like we've been talking about. And it's like, well, I don't want to stop living this easily, so yes, I will do X, Y, and Z that are morally ambiguous to then keep the easy life that I've created for myself.
Yeah, it's tough though, because it's like, building a house, like, right? Like, I think it's also like, I think there's also aspects, I think laziness and complacency definitely plays a role, but there's also just aspect of like social engineering.
Yeah.
Right? Toxic masculinity, all of these things that
they've broken the pillars of our community.
Yeah, that have made you feel a type of way about certain things. And you're like, wait a minute, like, well, hold up, like, is this really how it should be? And, is this how it should be ran? And, like, they've made you question everything, where it seemed like at some point they kind of figured it out. Like, this is a good way for this to work. This is kind of how we keep things moving forward. But it's fucking, it's odd. It's a crazy, it's just a crazy time. I don't really know how else, but it's just crazy. Dude. There's just so much going on all at once. And it all just seems like a distraction, but not at the same time. But then, like, no one's, like, barely anybody's talking about the files anymore. It's already kind of just disappeared.
Well, because everybody's worried about fucking gas prices. Like, Iran is, like, the hot topic right now. And it's like, I remember guys I was in the military with that hopped on the Epstein train, like, right after he killed himself. And, like, they've been riding that all the way up to now. And it's like, they've been experienced what we've been experiencing, where it's like, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're an extremist, you're crazy, like, you don't understand the world. It's like, when you catch wind of something so diabolical like that, and then you give it up so easy because you don't want to believe that it's true, it's like, who's the real bad guy?
Well, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
People don't really want to accept it.
Yeah.
They think of it as just like a sex trafficking ring. It's like, dude, this was so much more than that. They were sacrificing, eating kids. Like, they were doing.
I know. I've read through some of it, and it's like
diabolical things.
Fucking heinous.
How does Bill Gates still have a career?
I have no idea. I have
He is
no idea.
in the files, clear as day, talking about the pandemic in 2018, 2017. They're sitting there talking about the pandemic that is coming.
Yeah.
Fucking how? Dude?
Yeah.
Like why? Like how?
They don't want to accept it.
How does all of that come out? And then the story about forcing, like he was trying to find ways to slip his wife like drugs to help with the STDs and like things that he was getting, and it's just like, what the fuck,
I don't know,
dude?
I mean, even my little caveman brain, like in all my infinite wisdom, I can't even begin to like start to process half of that. I mean, for God's sakes, like I unfortunately, like what I've chosen to do, like requires me to sit down and write constantly about people being, raped and beaten and forced into, sex slavery and all these horrible things. And like, if I even begin to digest like that kind of information, like that's like actively happening for the people that I'm trying to work with or trying to like adjacently contact to, be more of a pillar like in the fight against trafficking, like to even think about the fact that I might be crossing paths with so many people that have a hand in that, like it bothers me.
Yeah.
And that's like I can't begin to start to think about the repercussions of that and the potential of that, like for me and what we're doing it. I don't know.
That is interesting. That's an interesting way to think about it too, because like, it kind of goes back to like something that I think about is like, how many times have you just came across or crossed paths with like a mass murderer? And just like,
you have no idea.
You just didn't know it. It's just something, you're at the grocery store and you just cross paths with somebody. You say, hey, I like your hat. Oh yeah, I like your shoes. And then that person's just going home and they got two people in a cage right now.
Yeah, right. People screaming for their lives.
It's like, what the fuck?
Oh man.
And that's kind of what you're talking about. It's like, dude, you have this the lady that represents the Virgin Islands, who was allowing them to traffic the women into the Virgin Islands, and all it took was a $30,000 donation.
Yep. That's not even a whole lot of money. That's probably, just an inkling of what they were willing to pay for that service.
Like 30 grand, that's it?
Yep.
As a woman?
Yep.
Just took 30 grand for you to look the other way.
Yep.
As they just brought kids and women and boys.
Every day.
All the time.
Yeah.
It's heinous.
Yeah. That is a part of like why I liked working in DC, because when you're there, you're running into these people that we hear about in the news and everything. You run into them all the time, right? Like they're a part of it up there. Like that's where they work. That's where they go every day. And you get to like actually interact with them and talk to them and speak to them. And like you get to have these thoughts of like I'm looking at you in the face like, would you really do that? Would you? Like, is there something about you that I can pick out that makes me feel like yes, you evil motherfucker. Yeah. Like, of course you would.
Is it eerie that you can't figure it out sometimes?
Yes, of course.
Like, take like a Hillary Clinton, for instance. And let's just put on our tinfoil hat and let's say the Frazzle Drip story is
true?
True.
Damn.
Just 100% true, allegedly. And, you meet her, and you're talking to her, and she's like, oh, Jordan. You're like, hey, how's baby Logan doing? Like, is she doing good? Like, having this, like, real like, human interaction with her.
And that's when it's hard, too, because, like I said earlier, it's like this kind of like this sociopath tendencies, right? That, like, these agencies and places like this are looking for because you don't exhibit the same emotions, the same like biometric signals that, like, if I was doing that, I'd be like, a fucking frazzled mess all the time, or probably dead. Like I wouldn't be able to live with myself after hearing these horrible stories. But it's you talk to them face to face, and you're like, you can feel yourself trying to analyze them, and you can also feel them trying to analyze you in a way, and you're both trying to figure out who's who at the same time. It's like the Spider-Man meme, right? And I'll be honest, there's only a couple people that I ever like came across that made me feel really, really weird, and one of those was DeSantis.
Really?
Oh my God, such a weird guy. Such a weird guy.
Interesting.
And Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah, yeah.
Dan Crenshaw, I don't, and I'll say it publicly, I don't care. I don't like Dan Crenshaw. He fucking traded his Trident for, I don't know, whatever he has now, and he sucks.
I think I think, there's a reason why people talk about selling of your soul. Like, I think there is people who are making these deals, and they are truly selling their soul. Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Randy Fine.
Oh man, yeah. The Ted Cruz is a really, really interesting case. It's a very interesting case. Well, and I mean, I remember when he ran for president.
He ran when?
I'm pretty sure it was right. It was either Obama's second term or right after it. I can't remember which one. But he ran for president. He didn't make it past the primaries, but he ran for president. And I remember like watching him, and I was like, I was a teenager, and I was like, okay, this guy is, interesting. He's from Texas, like whatever. And now I'm hearing him talk, and I'm like, oh my God, thank goodness I didn't know anything about this guy. Like, we need to get this dude the hell out of here. Oh my God.
It's interesting, dude, because obviously I don't think all of them are directly complicit. I do think that most of them are indirectly complicit in some regard, whether it's the covering up or the looking the other way or... whatever. But there's definitely a few of them that are directly complicit who are probably just very evil. Just an unfathomable amount of evil. And I think that's one thing that the files should have showed people is that there's
true real evil. Yeah.
And at the very beginning of the episode, you said that the only way to combat that is you have to have strong men who are capable of fighting that or fighting back against that, and they have done everything in their power to make you feel like that is wrong, and that you shouldn't be that person, and that you should not be capable of violence, and that is not necessary because daddy government will protect you all the time, right? So we've gotten to this very weird point where we have so many just frail, weak individuals. You see these videos of people smacking other people's kids in public or something, and I'm like, dude. And then the dad just stands there and doesn't do anything, and I'm like, what?
Who are you? Are you just a robot? Yeah, it's like
what the hell? But they've so many people have just been conditioned that that is somehow the better way to live through life, and it's sure. Most of the time, probably absolutely, right? Should you be at the bar and someone just checks you in the shoulder and then y'all just start fucking brawling right there? No, probably not. There's probably better ways. Yeah. Or there's probably better, or different reasons why that should happen, right? Yeah. And that's probably not one of that's worth it. Dude, someone comes to you, you're in the grocery store, somebody snatches up your kid.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
T1000 mode activated. You are going down, bro.
That. It's just it's insane to watch these videos, and you're just like, what the hell is happening? But they've spent so much energy and so much time to do this, and I think that's also hard for people to fathom that they would spend so much energy doing all of this, doing these things, but it's just been a very slow drip. A very slow process because we have the Second Amendment. But then you turn around and you look at the UK. The UK gave their guns up not that long ago. 30 years.
Yeah. In hindsight,
30 years,
it's not that long.
And in 30 years, dude, wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. The UAE is saying that they no longer, the UK is now on their bans list for their citizens to go over and study in university. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, Ukraine's a prime example of why we should all have guns, because whenever your government fails to supply protection for an invasion, I'm still very critical of that whole situation. But regardless, in terms of Second Amendment, those people, they did not hesitate to take up arms and defend their homeland, and that's that's patriotism in and of itself. That's nationalism in and of itself, and that's a good thing for countries that are facing turmoil right? To be able to band together and actually make a difference against whatever forces you think are evil or just encroaching, like just any of it. It's such a pillar in community. And I think for America, it will be the last pillar to go, but I don't think that it's safe anymore. I don't think that the Second Amendment is as protected as it once was.
No, there's so many different like silly rules. Like if you have a rifle under 16 inches, you have to have a pistol stock on it, not a rifle stock. Just all these like real silly things that I think are just there to trip people up, to get people in trouble.
Well, and they want everybody's solution is like better background checks, right? But better background checks means that you have to tell more about yourself. And if you tell more about yourself, means that you are then technically incriminating yourself in whatever case, right? Or they're going to say that something disqualifies you in that history from owning a firearm. So then the guidelines get more strict, and then less people are able to own them, and then eventually nobody's able to own them because everybody meets the same criteria. And it's like, that's kind of the same trickling effect that we're seeing
in everything.
In everything, yeah, exactly, everything. And it's like, I'm not a violent felon, but if I was depressed when I was 15 years old and I went to therapy for just being a teenager, and now all of a sudden I'm 35 and I can't own a gun to protect myself, I'm still beating intruders with a baseball bat. Like, that's horrible. Yeah. I don't understand even the beginnings of the thought processes of like that kind of shit, right? Like they want to make it to where you're scared to make decisions because those decisions lead to assumptions that are only allowed to be made by the government.
Yeah. It's just like self-censorship.
Yeah.
Just like how you see people self-censoring themselves because they don't want to bring attention to themselves about certain topics. You see it all the time in Hollywood, all these different things. And, it's just another form of control. Mm-hmm. They didn't actually even have to do anything. All they had to do was just publicly shame enough people, and then the majority of folks just shut the fuck up. They didn't have to even do anything. Mm-hmm. All they had to do was just cancel a handful of people, and then most people say, "Whoop, well, I don't want that to be me."
Yep.
And then boom, just like that, you got 70% of the population that just go along with whatever, where they probably don't even believe in it at all, or they believe in it a little bit, but they're like, "Whoa, hold up, that's a little too far." But they're not going to say anything because they're scared of being that person, or like their friends not talking to them, or people judging them, or whatever the case may be. And it's just another form of control.
Yeah.
Just another way they control us.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah. What's next? So you're writing op-eds. You are, getting information out. What's the next step for y'all?
So right now for Project Liberty, I've been working a lot on partnerships, right? And there's other organizations like ours that have been doing it for longer and, have had more success. Now, to the scale of which I would like to do it, they haven't in the United States. It has been a lot of international work, which I'm not saying is not worth my time at all. Like, I've been trying to find a way to get to Sudan for fucking years now. I want to go to Africa so bad because it's a place that needs help. But there's a lot of groups that have done work like in the Balkans and in Eastern Europe and in the Philippines and in, like these places that are, you might not think that they have a trafficking problem, but they do, because they are third world countries that are extremely susceptible to manipulation and to, labor is very enticing. So labor trafficking is huge, like especially in Northern Africa, because there's so little jobs or like ways to live other than like agriculturally that people will basically follow you anywhere if it means that you might make money. So working on partnerships with other organizations that do the same things or want to do the same things as us is the main goal for the next step, because unfortunately with just me as like the sole proprietor of Project Liberty right now, I myself, my experience cannot speak for the things that I want to do, right? When it's just me, it's harder. But if I go with a group and do, kind of partner with them, do operations, seminars, produce pieces of literature, like with their social media teams, with the people that write for them, to show that I have gone outside of just my facilities to accomplish more in the space of counter trafficking, then we should be able to start receiving what is our biggest proponent, which is donations, right? And we used to be able to apply for USAID and get a lot of funding for things like, what we're doing now, and we wouldn't have to rely so much on just donations. But unfortunately, when the Trump administration came about, they gutted the whole thing, and the people in charge of USAID, they kind of kept moving the goal line. It just makes it harder for us to get the money, if there even is any anymore. I honestly don't know, but the next step is just to increase my experience, to increase the amount of reach that we get, like from my, through my credibility. And then hopefully that brings in donations, because people want to support me being able to do this. So if anybody wants to support Project Liberty and support the endeavors of trying to combat trafficking, at least on however large of a scale I can get to, donations is the best way possible.
Absolutely. And where can people do that?
It's projectlibertyusa.org, and I have cards with me that I'm sure that you can put in the video, and I'll leave some with you, obviously. But projectlibertyusa.org, there's a donation tab, and everything that goes in there goes straight to Project Liberty. I get none of it, and it is solely for the purpose of creating programs and hopefully eventually creating our search and rescue team to then go and do operations to actually make a difference in the space of counter human trafficking.
And so are you primarily looking to, are you trying to, do operations here in the U.S.? Or?
I would like to. And that was kind of my point that I was bringing up about, people have been doing it outside the United States because it's a lot easier to. Governments will pay you to come out there and help solve their problems. But the U.S. is, they don't, the FBI, the CIA, even sheriff's departments, locally, things like that, they don't want you, meddling around in their cases. Yeah. They don't want you, sniffing about. And I've experienced that a lot, you try and talk to a guy, you're like, hey, I do this, I heard that you were an officer, can I ask you, what is the metrics look like in this area, for your department? And then they start, being very defensive. There was a guy that, I meet a lot of cops through jiu-jitsu, obviously. And there's a guy that I met that was from Tyler, and he kind of told me about a case that he had, and he told the detectives about it that were in charge of trafficking in their area. And they were basically we don't have a trafficking problem if we don't address trafficking. And it's holy shit. That's a really big statement, man. I don't know if it can get much worse than that. You're just a detective on a fucking department, a local department, and you're worried about the image of your community because you're aware that there's trafficking present. It is almost just as bad as somebody participating in the problem as somebody who knows about it and doesn't participate, right? If you know about it, you should be actively telling somebody that there is this problem or working against it yourself. That complacency drives me up the fucking wall, because men have no virtue now. You know that something's wrong, but you're so afraid of ruining your perfect little fucking life that you'll allow these innocent people to be manipulated, and their innocence is allowed to be bartered and traded for your comfortability. That just makes me so angry. That, what a disgusting mindset you have to have as a human being to even relay that comment to somebody. Yeah. If we don't talk about it, we don't have it. Fuck you, man.
it just ties into everything we just talked about, right?
Yeah, and it's at the lowest level.
If we just don't talk about the files,
They don't
they
exist.
just didn't happen, or they're not happening, right? Or those kids aren't being sacrificed or whatever. You know, however far you want to go into it. Why do you think? Why do you think they don't want you kind of meddling in? Like, why do you think there is?
Well, I think that they're very tight, right? Yeah. So like government agencies, you know, I've been working, you know, kind of adjacently to government agencies for, you know, I would say the better part of the last decade. I've kind of like dedicated myself to the space of professional violence, right? Like that's kind of been my thing for a long time now. And people who are monopolizing that space are always very touchy about that. And I would say that there's a lot of hero complex involved with it, where it's like they don't want to give me access because they've been working on something and they don't want somebody else taking any credit for it, which yet again I think is just as fucking bad, because it's like you're operating in a space that requires your humanity more than anything, and you're thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
It just shows me that you're an untrustworthy person. Like you're so concerned with the credit of exposing this rather than
fixing the problem.
Yes, fixing the problem in general, and that it makes you a dangerous person to work with. It makes you a dangerous person to trust. It makes you a dangerous person to have around. And I don't condone that, and it upsets me because people are also willing to do a lot to not give up what little power they do have, right? And that's, local departments are a pillar in communities, right? I told you earlier, Project Liberty is a part of a few other organizations, like under the same umbrella and corporations that we have NCPD and PODC, and basically, an NCPD is National Center for Police Defense, and we represent wrongfully convicted police officers, that were convicted of shooting or malpractice or, anything along those lines. And we also raise money, kind of almost like Gold Star, where when a family member's killed in the line of duty, we send them money to kind of help them get on their feet because they're not getting that paycheck anymore from their husband or their son or their brother, whoever it is. We think that departments are pillars in the community, especially when combating things like human trafficking, because they're the ones who get to go to crime scenes. They get to investigate missing people. They get to do all these things. But when I go poking around, they always think that I'm going to try to expose them rather than the people who were doing the crimes, right? Because they're covering themselves. They're worried about bad publicity. And honestly, no matter how honest I am, you can't really convince people that you're not out to get them nowadays, right? I call it an army syndrome because, I used to do this a lot where, when you're in the army, it feels like everybody's always trying to screw you over. So, you go to the dentist and they're like, you're red on dental. We're going to take away everything that you own. It's like, what? Because I didn't get my teeth checked? What? What are you talking about? And I feel like they're almost kind of the same way. I'd say that law enforcement and military kind of share a lot of the same issues, especially amongst the men that, are leading and becoming leaders in those scenarios. And so when you go poking around, even if my intentions are pure, they're immediately going to be like, well, why do you need it now? Right? I've got this covered. Everything's all good. Don't fuck with what I have going on. And I'm like, no, I'm here to help, not to hurt. I don't care what you guys have been doing. I just need to know what's been going on so then I can make my own things about it. Right? I can't build off of things that I don't have information on. And you guys are the ones who are firsthand experiencing it, right? So that is my one frustration point, the one friction point with local and federal government that impedes the detection and deterrent of human trafficking in the United States. Because, the local law enforcement departments are being this deflective. Imagine how deflective the federal law enforcement departments are being, right? Like they probably do some unsavory things that they don't want me to witness in order to shape geopolitical events. And therefore, me getting thrown into the mix, being an outside entity, kind of puts a wrinkle in their proposal. And so I'm never angry with them about it, but it is annoying because it makes you question the honor of men and the virtues of men that have devoted themselves to the eradication of tyranny and chaos and things like that. So yeah, that's my pickle with that, at least.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's again a part of that human nature that we're talking about. It's just like, people either they want to figure it out themselves and get all the credit or all the glory, but at the end of the day, they're missing the mark. The mark is to then eradicate the issue or move in the direction of helping this issue get away, and however you can do, or whoever you can use the assistance from to move that needle should be what you do. Like, that should be the right thing to do the right thing. And there's just not enough people doing the right thing. And then, as you're talking about, people feel like there's always somebody trying to get them, and it's because, fuck, dude, there's so many people are used to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, even when I ask people to do this, I always tell them, like, look, dude, I'm not here. There's no gotcha moments. I'm not looking for a clip.
Yeah.
Like, it'll come organically. Like, there will be something to post about the episode organically through the conversation. Like, it's not sitting here trying to ask you questions to try to trap you into a corner and get you to say something stupid or whatever. But there's so many people that do that. They want this.
People get super defensive about that kind of stuff, right? Because they feel like people are out to make them seem like idiots.
Yeah, right. They want that. Like, there's people that are like they're looking for that moment so they can get their viral moment on Instagram or whatever it is, so that they can increase their popularity versus just like trying to bring light or shed light on whatever it is that person is trying to talk about. And that should be the goal. It should just be like, do the right thing, and then everything will work out. Like, having that belief, like, I don't need to screw over somebody just so that way I can move up the ladder. Like, there is enough ladders for us all to move up if we just all continue to just do the right thing. Like, I don't have to get up this ladder 5 times faster than the other person. Like, we should all be trying to bring each other up, right? Like, doing this, talk about, like, Andy Frisella talks about, like, personal excellence. We should all be trying to be personally excellent. That's how we fight back against all the things that we're talking about. If everybody's being perfectly excellent, then there's nobody trafficking that person, or there aren't traffickers, right?
Yeah.
Like, if everybody's trying to be the best version of themselves, I think what you're doing is you chose a hard path in life, but an honorable one, right? You chose a very hard subject to talk about, to digest. There's, diving into the Epstein files really kind of proved that, like, it's hard to digest this information. And I think that's why there's so many people who are just choosing not to, because it is difficult. Like, it wears on you. You really start to feel certain ways about people. You really start to, find yourself in, like, this dark place. But I still think it's super, super important to talk about it, to discuss it, to get that out, to allow people to hear those stories and become more aware of it, because then it is, hopefully less likely to happen, or, hopefully there's more people that are going to notice these certain things taking place in their community, and they're going to, do the right thing and make sure that that's not what's happening, and shut that down quickly. And that's hopefully, what we were talking about, I think, before the episode started rolling, is like, we just get back to these, like, small, manageable communities, where a lot of these things can't take place. A lot of these things are easy to do nowadays because no one cares about their neighbor. Like, your neighbor could go missing tomorrow and you probably wouldn't even notice. You probably wouldn't even notice if they moved.
Yeah.
If you didn't visually see an actual moving truck, if you didn't actually see them packing things up and then leaving, you probably wouldn't know that your neighbor moved or even changed. It could be a whole new family and you'd fucking never know, right? And that just plays a role in all of the trafficking and all these different things. It's just, people just don't even know who's around them anymore.
I have a good friend named Khaled. He's extremely smart. He graduated with an engineering degree from UT, but he brought up, he said something one time that I'll never forget, and he said the first sign of civilization is mindfulness. And there was a group of petrified skeletons that were found in some cave system. I'm not sure where, but it showed that there was obviously two individuals that were communicating, and then there was another individual that had a homemade splint on his leg. And that means that he had hurt his leg, and the other two tried to save him, right? They didn't just leave him for dead. And to your point of like, you wouldn't notice if your neighbor was gone. The mindfulness of communities has been left in the dust. And there is no longer like we should be noticing when the people around us are no longer present. And we don't do that anymore. Everybody wants to be so privatized, it's your bubble, right? But you can be a member of your community and still have your bubble. Everybody has thought that it's separate for some reason now. It's like if you are involved in the community, you have no privacy. I don't think the correlation is correct.
Well, if you participate in anything, you have no privacy. Like, it's so easy to find. If somebody wants to find you, they'll find you.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
so fucking easy.
Exactly.
We've given up all rights to privacy in the early 2000s. Edward Snowden warned us, he told us, no one cared.
Snowden, you brought up Snowden.
We gave up all of it. Right? Like, I think it was either BlackRock or one of them bought Ancestry.com. They have all of our DNA,
everything.
They're bioengineering ticks. They made a virus to try to kill us. To think that I'm staying private because I'm not helping my community, that'd be
it's a ridiculous claim.
Pretty silly, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's been a slippery slope, and I think we're still on it. Things have just fallen off, and every pillar of every community that we have strived to be has now collapsed in on itself, or is beginning to collapse in on itself. Whatever's left, and I think in smaller portions, like you're saying, we need to start making decisions that are strengthening those pillars, right? Like, we need groups of people that can put aside very niche social differences in order to create a place where not only they can thrive, but their families and other people can thrive and, subscribe to a way of thinking that they believe is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you can only control what you can control. If the inevitable is coming, the inevitable is coming. But all we can do is control what we do every day until that day finally comes. And the things that you can control is shopping local, shop with your local ranchers, support your local farms, try to be personally great, run a business, impact your community in a positive light, stay in shape, stay healthy, learn how to fight, learn how to shoot a firearm, learn how to defend your family, learn how to defend yourself, control the controllables, because if this whole thing hits the fan, it definitely feels like eventually that day is coming. At least when that day does come, you're at least a little bit more prepared, or, at least you were doing your part. You can't control how everybody else is going to react. You can't control whether or not they want to actually discuss the Epstein files or talk about it or have those discussions. You can't control all of that. You can only control your piece of it. And I think that is I think that's an important thing to remind people, just control your piece. Don't just Don't just throw your hands in the air because you yourself can't change the world. You're right. But if every single person was like, no, I'm going to fight back against the system. I'm not going to eat this bullshit. I'm not going to not work out. I'm not going to not do these things.
They want you weak and fragile.
If you fight back in that regard, and if everybody did that, then it just wouldn't work. The plan wouldn't work. They wouldn't be able to do it because they wouldn't have the numbers. They wouldn't have the power no more. They wouldn't have the control. And you're right. You single-handedly cannot change it all. And I think what we have grown up to think changes the world is not what actually changes it. Really, it's just you trying to be the best version of yourself and supporting the correct things in the community, being a part of it, being meaningful, being just doing what you can. Obviously, some days I gotta buy something from Amazon. It's just what happens.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of things. It's really hard to avoid, but just make a effort to make some kind of change. Go to a farmer's market once a month. Go, buy from these, at least just a ranch. Even if you buy from like a White Oaks pasture, that's all the way in Georgia. At least buy your meat, your vegetables from people who are not a part of the big food system or the big system or the centralized system. And that is how you can at least fight back in your own way. If you don't want to talk about things publicly or if you don't want to do that, that's fine. There's different ways that you can still participate in all of this and make a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bring up a good point about, the individualism of people. And I talk about this a lot with jiu-jitsu. Like my children will do jiu-jitsu long before they do a team sport because an individual who understands their individual responsibility in a role therefore makes a good teammate. People who are able to know the gravity of what their actions have on a group means that you therefore are a better team player by default, because if you're upholding your responsibility and everybody else is upholding their responsibility, and now you've all accomplished that, and then you go to a team sport and then you combine on one singular goal, you understand that if you're not there or you're not giving what is needed of you, then that starts to collapse. The foundation of reaching that goal starts to collapse very, very quickly. And I don't think that there is anything better than having somebody who understands their individual responsibility more than they understand the responsibility of being on a team, because you can't have one without the other, right? You can be on a team and not know responsibility, but you can't be by yourself and not know responsibility.
I love that. Let's end on that. That was fucking good. I like that reframe there. Tell everybody again, where they can find you, where they can support you, where they can support the organization.
So I projectlibertyusa.org. My phone number is on there. It's our company phone number. It's going to have a 703 area code because we're technically the 501c3 is based out of DC. That's just where our other organizations originated, was in DC. So that is my personal number that you can call. You can also email me if anybody wants to talk about anything, if they have questions about donations, if they have questions about what we're doing, you can email me at Josh Fotis at projectlibertyusa.org. That's my email. And then you can always call our number as well. We have a team that does like our outreach, and they'll direct you in the right direction as well. So if any of the numbers that you see on our website, I also have my cards here that I'll give to you.
Thank you.
Just so everybody has that. We have QR codes on the back that take you straight to the website. Yeah, the best thing to support us is just donations. We operate almost solely off of them, and none of it goes to me or anybody else. It all goes back into the fight against trafficking.
That's awesome, man. Like I said, you chose a hard path, but an honorable one, and so I respect it. Thank you for all that you do. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks for
you
having
telling
me,
your
man.
story, and we'll do it again.
I really appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
man.
Yeah.
Of course. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.